Tonight we get to talk about the thing I'm most interested in, which is the way that innovation, properly managed, can change the world. And I think people are really underestimating both the importance of innovation and how it really is the answer to many of the tough challenges that we face. Innovation, of course, is very difficult to measure. It's not like there's some number that we come up with when we look at improved software or even improved medicine. But in fact, those are the things that really have changed the world. And I would say the pace of that innovation is faster than ever before. My history was that when I was young, in high school, computers were very different. People thought of them as very much a negative thing, something that was a tool of big governments and big companies, and almost against the individual. They were very expensive, they would make mistakes, you couldn't fix their mistakes, they might not work favorably for you. Well, that changed utterly with two big breakthroughs. One breakthrough was the ability to put the computer on a chip and make it inexpensively. And that's where companies like Intel and many others came in and performed that miracle. And then the second was the rethinking of software and building a software platform that allowed literally hundreds of thousands of new companies to be started to build innovative software. And Microsoft was lucky enough to be the company that had that vision and really create for the early personal computers and then later for what was the IBM personal computer, that foundational software that let people write magic software. The key thing that happened there was that the more personal computers that got sold, both the hardware and software prices could come down. The hardware price, because the scale economics of making chips allowed them to bring the price down while making them more powerful. And likewise, software, where you have a fixed cost of development. If you have more customers, then you can charge a much lower price and still have the opportunity to invest in the research and in constantly improving that software. And so a phenomena grew up around first Microsoft Basic, then MS-DOS, and then by the mid-90s, Microsoft Windows, where hundreds of thousands of companies were building on top of it. And that type of openness and that partnership created the phenomenon of personal computing. I don't think it's an exaggeration, although I'm biased, to say that the personal computer, particularly as it's now been connected together through the internet, is the best tool that mankind has ever created. After all, we've had many tools that magnify our manual capabilities, but this is really an important tool, perhaps the first one since something like the Chinese invented printing, that takes our mental creativity and really multiplies that in this incredible way. And as you look across the sciences today, you see what an important tool the computer, the internet, and software, which is really one set of things that work together as a system, you see how important that's become. When we think now about advances in biology, that's so much data, we need computers and software to understand that information. Even a field like astronomy, where you take data from many telescopes at different times and look at the universe and have ideas, it's no longer just staring through an eyepiece. Rather, it's whatever theory you have to test it against the data, and software is very key to let you do that. So this original dream that the computer could change, I was 19 years old, and my friend Paul Allen understood hardware better than I did, and he got me to read about the chip and convinced me to drop out of school. I'm not here to recommend that. Quite the opposite. Microsoft prefers people to finish their education. And I think other companies have a similar view on that topic. And anyway, college is a lot of fun. Paul and I talked about being at the very beginning of the industry. And so the first machine that we wrote the BASIC for was a very limited machine. It had 4K bytes of memory. And in fact, fitting the BASIC interpreter into that small space was probably one of the most fun craftsmanship things that I ever had a chance to do. It's almost hard for me to adjust to how much memory machines have. I mean, back then, if somebody wasted 5 bytes of memory, it was very upsetting. You know, today, people waste 5 megabytes, and they don't even think about it. Oh, it's 5 megabytes. I'll just waste it. So you have to adjust your mind to these exponential improvements and what kinds of things can be possible. So software has come a long way. There's a lot of statistics we can talk about. About 1 billion people are using personal computers either at home or work. And that's a large number. Now, it's short of 6 billion, which is the population of the planet. So obviously, we still have more we can do in terms of bringing the price down and improving the relevance and the ease of use so that everyone, not only indirectly, but directly has access and can be doing great things. The internet usage, of course, is exploding. China now has the most number of broadband users anywhere in the world. Hong Kong, of course, has always been a leader in the availability of broadband and the quality of broadband and pioneered a lot of amazing things because of that. I think any of the statistics you look at, the mobile phone usage, and of course, the mobile phone, which started out as not being a software-driven device. It started off as just purely a voice-type device. It, year by year, is becoming as much of a software-driven platform as the personal computer itself. The idea of looking at maps and looking at news and documents and having the information be presented to you, or even more advanced ideas of how you interact with that device. The boundary between what's a personal computer and what's a phone in the future will not be such a black and white question. In fact, particularly as we get screen technology where you can almost unfold or unroll the screen, then at one time you'll be using a device as a small screen and then have a much larger screen that you can work with. Or even if we don't have that, you might use it as a small screen, but then when you are stationary, you can project onto a wall or onto any surface and have it as a large screen device. So the hardware innovativeness is taking the phone and making that very important because it's so portable and so pervasive. And so, of course, the entire software industry, including Microsoft, is taking its ideas and applying it to that platform as well. The personal computer, year by year, there's more and more that we've been doing with it. 10 years ago, it was about printing out good-looking documents and the idea of typesetting. It was an amazing thing that a small company with a few employees could create a brochure that looked as good as a very large company. There used to be a difference in what was possible there. Well, today we'd think more about editing a movie and making it possible for somebody to edit a high-quality, high-definition movie. A kid in his bedroom making great multimedia with some creative idea, being on an equal footing even with a big movie company that can afford to buy very expensive equipment. And so the frontiers of software are constantly changing. And that's why this is an industry that's so exciting. In fact, I'm envious of those of you who are young today and just entering into this new digital world and bringing your fresh ideas to what can be done here.